Chip Lord of Ant Farm.
Yay!
Curtis Schreier is also in the building, but he's probably attached to his letterpress right now. But we just wanted to talk just briefly about the exhibition here at Capp Street and to thank a few people who made it possible. And maybe to remember a few of the people who were involved in the origins of Media Burn and are no longer here. So just for a morbid note, I want to begin by thanking Leanne Ladia, who is the director of Capp Street, and I was crazy enough to suggest this idea, and she was crazy enough to say yes. And then suddenly we had to invent an exhibition. The 50th anniversary was kind of the easy hook. And Chip is kind of jaded at this because last year was the 50th anniversary of Cadillac Ranch. And if you would have been in Amarillo, there were all kinds of celebrations, and the local art museum, I believe, had an exhibition. So he's kind of a veteran of this sort of thing. And I only have my kind of obsession with Media Burn as more of a historical object that came out of doing the research for my book. So we come to it from two different directions. Where should we go? So my intention with this work, I wanted to explain quickly. At some level, Media Burn is simply a work of conceptual art. Oh, here's Curtis Schreier.
Good evening, Media Burn fans.
So, one way to look at Media Burn is to consider it as a work of conceptual art. There is a planning stage, and then the actual performance, and then for the most part they dematerialize, and we don't hear from them again. But in the case of Media Burn, as I discovered when I was doing research, is not only did Media Burn go through many revisions and refinements, but they began to generate, Ant Farm began to generate enormous amounts of ephemera based on their drawings and their revisions and his doodles over the year, and the architectural drawings and the press releases and the contracts and the funding letters, and they saved everything. And so when I did the initial research, it was, instead of having to dig and to desperately find material, there was a complete surfeit of stuff to look at. And I always loved that idea, and that one day I wanted to try to show, in a sense, how there was such a bounty of ephemera that seemed so counter to an event that took place on a parking lot, and in seconds was gone. But then accretes around it a history that goes on and on and on. And now here we are 50 years later. So that was my intention, was to somehow, make this a whole event, that represented all the research and the deep thinking that went into just creating a single image ultimately. So, and it's these guys who took care of all that material, and then eventually the biggest part of the archive went to the Berkeley Art Museum. There's a lot of it at Columbia University as well. So there is just this bounty of material if you ever dare to research Ant Farm.
There's also another big piece, and that's the Phantom Dream Car itself is in the Belker Foundation in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Where the car itself is in Kansas City, the Phantom Dream Car. But Steve, you didn't mention that these materials also survived a fire in 1978 at our studio, which is at Pier 40 on the waterfront. And at that time, many people stepped up to help us. The things that survived the fire were moved over to the optic nerve loft on 10th Street. to dry out. So that was a factor as well. And I wanted to, you know, it's odd to celebrate 50 years in this way, to me.
Chip.
But I'm so glad you're all here. I want to mention a few people who are not here. And first of all, Doug Michaels, who was our Ant Farm partner, co-founder, and did the first drawing of what would become Media Burn. And Doug was always the first one to the drawing board. Is that right?
I would say yes, yes.
But several other people were, by the way, everybody was a volunteer of making Media Burn on July 4th, 1975. Jules Backus is also, should be remembered. He was on the men's crew of Optic Nerve. There were two video crews, the women's crew and the men's crew, and he died far too young. Jim Mayer was also part of the men's crew from Optic Nerve. He passed a few years ago. Jerry Mander, who wrote the book 4 Arguments for the Elimination of Television, was an inspiration, and in a sense, that's one vein of where the idea came from. Hardy Fox, an associate of the Residents, was one of the Secret Service agents performing with the artist president. Doug Hall is not here today, but he is still very much alive. But finally, I want to mention Connie Llewellyn. And Connie, of course, wrote the book about the David Ireland house, which is available from the concession stand. And she was also a curator and co-curator with Steve of the Ant Farm exhibition at the Berkeley Art Museum in 2003. You know, it's funny because over the intervening years, there wasn't a lot of interest. And Connie had the insight to say, I think we could make an exhibition out of this. And, you know, that opened the door in a way to looking at the work that was done in 10 years, from 1968 to 78 by Ant Farm.
I should also add that Connie was the interim executive director of Capp Street. She was on the board, but I think when there was a gap between directors, she stepped in, and it was right around the time that I think she was writing the book that Chip was just talking about. So there's that funny connection between doing the Ant Farm retrospective at the Berkeley Art Museum, and then curatorially it finds itself here literally 20 years later.
So we are the survivors. And Curtis, do you want to say anything?
Maybe more a little bit later, but I feel like I've been spread almost like a blob of ink over the entire thing that made Media Burn a print. So I'll just sort of keep quiet.
And there's another important thing I wanted to just raise, is that, you know, in the conception of the ephemera that you see downstairs, all of that is just reproductions. And, you know, there's no, except the things inside that vitrine, there's nothing that's original. It's all copies of things. But I still turned to all of the photographers and asked for permission to mount their photographs, and every one of them said yes, but I wanted to acknowledge them. There was Edmund Shea, John Turner, Lynn Adler, Diane Andrews Hall, and Kim Eccleston, all of whom, you know, 5 photographers that were just on the tarmac at the Cow Palace documenting this event. And I think, you know, that aspect of the show for me is a kind of important feature.
They were on the tarmac, but they were in the official press area, and they were wearing their official press pass. And we had sent a press release to the local TV stations and all three of the major stations showed up with video crews. And incidentally, before today, earlier, David Louie, who was a Cub reporter for KGO TV and covered Mediaburn, was here and did a little recording for his memoir.
Yeah.
So,
And he's in one of the photographs. You can see him on the edge of a photograph covering the event.
yeah. Are there any questions?
I actually have a question. How did you get permission to use the parking lot?
Yeah. We rented it, and there was no event in the Cow Palace on July 4th. And they were willing, amazingly, they were willing to rent it to us for how much? $150, right? For the day. And of course, with the promise that we would clean up afterwards and there wouldn't be any fire or danger involved. So what happened, and you don't see it in the video, but after the event had ended, so to speak, people were continuing to pile broken TVs onto more broken TVs. The fire department showed up, and they kept asking around, who was in charge? Who's in charge here? They couldn't find anybody in charge. So there was no citation issued for it.
I think one car was confiscated, or rent-a-car was confiscated, and no one came for it.
They also had, I think, 4 rent-a-cops that I think I understand Tom Weinberg hired, to patrol the area, and you see them in a lot of the photographs. But they weren't from the Cow Palace; they were actually kind of props for the Mediaburn event itself.
Yeah, they held the crowd back.
So, what would Mediaburn 2025 look like if it was done today? And assuming you have more than $150.
Well, I would say it's more needed now than it ever was before.
Probably Washington,
But
D.C.
it's not for us to design it. It's for the new generation to discover ways of representing that action.
With the NEA grant, can you talk a little bit about that and the percentage of the project that came from that and other sources?
Money? This is about money?
Yeah.
There was one grant that was given to Electronic Arts Intermix in New York, and they funneled some of that money to probably based on a very limited production budget that we prepared prior to the event. But I want to emphasize that it was done really on a very low budget and with a lot of volunteers pitching in to help. For example, Star Sutherland showed up at 7 in the morning. What can I do to help make it happen? And it was not that attitude was implicit in the event itself. Another example of some budgetary savings, Tom Weinberg went and bought crash helmets for the 2 artist dummies to wear in the car. And it was actually authentically dangerous, They could feel the heat. This is one of them. And then on Monday after Mediaburn, he took the helmets back to the store. And
They
got
were
the money
they
back.
were undented and untouched by the impact.
Question up in the balcony.
Yes, I'd like to know what was going on at the very last minute when you had to switch out the windshields.
Oh, that was part of that. That's planned. We never planned to go through the impact with the clear windshields at all. The clear windshields were blown first on a complex pattern, and then those blown windshields were used to cast the black ones, which are probably about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch thick.
Safety first.
Yeah, safety first. So then we show the car off with the clear ones, and then we pop the clear up and put the impact shields to go through the TVs. Yep.
I really liked Kennedy's speech. Did you guys write that, or what was it?
Tell them about the origination.
The speech by the artist president was based on an article that George McGovern wrote for Rolling Stone magazine in 1970. Well, I think it was 74, because of course he lost to Nixon in 72, and Rolling Stone commissioned him to give his version of the State of the Union. And it was an interesting piece of writing. It's very critical, and I sort of adapted that to the other requirements for a politician's speech, and so that was where the text came from.
Where did
And
the TVs
you know,
come
there's
from?
a kind of some technical glitch that particular piece of video of the close-up of the artist president was not the best camera. But the important thing is to listen and not worry about seeing every detail of the artist president's face. The what object?
Stacked found object.
Oh,
stacked
stacked
television,
found
like
objects.
Christmas
Yeah, that's
carols
a-
or other things.
That's a common trope, in other words.
No. It's fantastic, but I'm just like, hate is a trope. That,
So, some of the TV sets were actually donated by people who wanted to be part of it. And others were found by going to TV repair shops, and they always had a back room of repaired TVs that people had not picked up.
Let me do. Not very long before the event itself, there was a TV store in Market Street that went out of business and was completely full of cases of TVs. So I brought the truck over, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, take them away," and there we are.
And if you look at the drawing that's downstairs for the earlier version called Media Vision, the interesting thing about that one was they wanted the pyramid of televisions to be working television sets, and there would be a camera pointed towards the Phantom Dream car. So as they drove towards the television sets, they would see the image of their own car getting larger and larger and larger on the set. So
That was missing.
but that would have been like 100 functioning televisions, you know.
And we
TV
didn't have the
cameras were
budget
not
for
that
that.
cheap at that age either. Now you can pick them up. You can find them on the street corner. No, I was not the driver. I was the engineer in the riding shotgun. Doug was the driver.
There was also a third person in the car who was lying on the floorboard at Curtis's feet.
Yes, exactly. At my feet and pointing upward and getting a
And-
view of the. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
You get it.
But he needs credit because he's the obscured third
that's why
passenger.
in the Cadillac, the cameraman has the helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Bert Arnowitz was the cameraman inside the car. He was self-described human tripod.
Was the car totally designed by you as artists, or was there any kind of mechanic that gave you any guidance as you made it?
Curtis
Yeah,
led the customization of the
Yeah,
Phantom
I
car.
did a lot of the custom stuff, but the car was essentially a stock Cadillac convertible. Had a working roof that started not working, and we decided to make it so radical that we moved the driving position and the driver and the shotgun seat into the back where the rear seats were, meaning that the entire front of the car was a complete hood, as if you had some sort of weird, powerful engine under it. It was bigger than 3 times the size of a normal Cadillac engine. But that was all myth. And what required to be made is the structure for the third fin, which is raise the camera up above and down on the track. So that was that was a lot of the stuff that I did. That the making that thing work, and we also surrounded it with a complete. It was almost like a bathtub. The inside was a bathtub, and what we built was like a bathtub cover, a lid, like a lid for a coffee, for a souffle pot, you know, and that had the bubbles mounted on them, and we also there's a feeling that I had that something really might happen, and I think that made me not join the structure of the fin coming down with the big shield. As a result, when the thing went to the TVs, the fin got broken off and fell in the backward. And the other thing I didn't do was I didn't put the little ring of the camera, screw that shut. When the ring fell off, it pulled the plug out safely and didn't go across our necks. So.
But another safety precaution was to remove the inside metal objects of the guts of the TVs. And now Curtis was in charge of that, but what happened, Curtis?
It just became overwhelming, and a lot of TVs were put on as if they were just right off the dumpster. Right out of the dumpster, without any modification at all. I would have liked to have seen all shells of TVs, and we would have put like something to make dust or powder or something like that as they broke open. But we never had the time to do this. So we had to essentially plow through the rubble that we were making.
You were talking about the car. I was wondering if there's a symbolism in the Cadillac, because there was a lot of different types of cars.
It's the ultimate car. It's the ultimate entertainment.
Better than Chevrolet.
Yeah, better than all the other ones, yes.
And it wasn't a company car. We happened to own a Cadillac convertible of '59. And in the
It had an accident.
in the exhibition is the album cover for the Hoodoo Rhythm Devils, a San Francisco rock band, and we bought it from the car from the Hoodoo Rhythm Devils. But several months before the event, somebody ran through a red light and crashed into the front corner of the Cadillac, and so that convinced us that it could be modified to become the Phantom Dream car.
Were you driving the car and got hit by the chauffeur?
Yeah, who was driving?
Who was driving the car at the
I
red
was
light?
driving. Yeah, in the accident. Yeah.
And that's why he
I'm not
decided not
blaming
to
you
be
for the
one.
accident.
That's right, yeah.
He'd already
You've been a dummy, yeah.
One last question.
What were you thinking when you crashed into all the TVs?
I was thinking of the smell, because there was a very dusty smell that came right through as we were crashing, and it happened. It just held on to that smell until Doug put the brake down and stopped us. That was it. It was a smell-o-vision.